But
Very dangerous talk. Wow. Look who I have here with me. I can't even believe it. Dr. Boyce Watkins. How are you feeling, sir?
I am feeling good, sister. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So nice to see your face. I always want to talk to you, so I'm so excited about today.
Well, I'm equally excited. So I'm glad to see you as well. And I can't wait to get started.
Thank you. Well, here we go. So what I like to do on my show, Dr. Boyce, is I like to give my guests their flowers, so you are no different. So I just asked if you could just sit back, relax, and take your flowers. Are you okay with that?
Come on, bring it on. I'm ready.
Bam, here we go. So Dr. Boyce Watkins, I tell you, I don't even know where I first saw you. Of course, it had to be YouTube, Instagram, something where you were making headlines, getting into somebody's ass, pause, right, doing something, saying something crazy. But let me tell you what I really love about you. I love an unapologetic Black man. It's so needed in this society for our young kids to be able to see Black people stand on their word, not be moved by the outside noise, and say, no, this is my stance and I'm sticking with it. Because so many times we see the outside forces trying to clown out Black men to just bow their heads to the powers that be. So, you know, whether I agree with everything you say, I think most of your things I do agree with. I just appreciate the fact that you are always yourself. You giving us your truth, and you're saying it in an educated way, and you break it down. You know, you study, you give it to us, the details, and we love it. So thank you for being you, and thank you for what you're doing for our culture.
Well, I appreciate you as well. And it's I appreciate the fact that you appreciate it, you know, because not everybody gets it. You know, you say stuff and you know, and it's not always the universal truth. It's a truth that I want to lay on the table. And we don't really live in a free society really that allows you to really express yourself in the way that that is honest all the time. And so my goal is to be honest. And I think that, you know, and so when I have people that can say, you know, I may not always agree with what he's saying, but I'm willing to listen. That's all I ever ask for people. I ain't ask them, you know, I'm not trying to be nobody's demagogue or anything like that. It's just like, let's have a conversation, because I think as Black people, we got to have those conversations. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, sister.
Absolutely, no problem. So you're an author. I mean, you're a social commentator, you get into politics a little bit, you do a little bit of everything. So I just want to remind people on this show, I said it since the beginning, I want to make this clear because I have a lot of new followers now. I'm trying to get as big as you, Dr. Boyce. I just want to restate that this show is about learning, you know, as well as honoring people and having a conversation. I never said I was an expert in anything, but actually you are expert and some things, Mr. Boyce. You're a financial expert is what I hear. So we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to learn a lot today. We're going to have some fun. So let's get started.
All right.
Yes. Where I would like to start is just learn a little bit about you. I know you're from Kentucky, and I kind of just want to go back with you and hear about your humble beginnings, because I know there's a great story there that we can be inspired from.
You know, I did grow up in Kentucky. My mother, let's see, when my mother gave birth to me, I think she was about 17, and my father, I think, was a year younger than my mother, and I never really knew my father. I met him about 2 or 3 times. I think I met him twice. Talked to him on the phone once, and so when I came to the world, there was nobody there to greet me. You know, it was just me and my mother. They dropped her off at the hospital. They picked her up on the curb. And so it was just me and her, you know, her and this little baby standing on the curb waiting for her ride home. And that's how we came into the world. And so my mother's scared to death, you know, and she didn't get much help from what I understand, just from what I was told, didn't get much help from my biological father. And so she was kind of overwhelmed. And so what she did was actually she took me to church, and she said, God, I cannot take care of this baby. I'm giving this baby to you. And that's what she put me on the altar and gave me to God. And I'm not a guy that goes to church or anything like that, but I am spiritual and I believe in a higher power, and I believe that there was something to that. And so through those years, times, it was a little bit tough in the beginning, very tough actually, just poverty, kind of a typical Black story in a lot of ways, unfortunately, which is kind of sad. And when I was about 3, my mother married a great man who took me in. He's not a stepfather, he's my father, and he's the reason why I don't have any bitterness toward my biological father. I think my biological father just missed an opportunity, but then again, that was his life. And because I didn't miss anything. I didn't get up saying, gosh, I wish I had a dad. I got to go find my real dad. No, I was curious, I'd never seen a guy that looked that much like me before. But then, I asked around and I was like, okay, I think I got lucky. I think I got lucky by being raised by this dude and not the other one. So thank God that, that there are men in the community. Shout out to all the men who do that, who are there for children that are not their own. And he loved me as if I was his own son. And I appreciate that. And so, so through the years, I was not a good student in school. I did not do well in school. I did not like school. I was like a lot of Black boys. I define myself, as an athlete, right? Every Black boy thinks they're going to be in the NBA or the NFL or whatever. I wasn't no different from that. And my grades were terrible. And education was not really a big part of my life. I learned how to think critically just from conversations I had with my parents about just understanding the world. They were just practical people. Like they weren't into like Democrat or Republican politics. They were just practical. They taught me little basic things like personal responsibility. If you go out into the world and you do something stupid, that's going to be your burden to bear. You're going to make if you make that mistake, that's what's going to be your price to pay, nobody else's. And I didn't know that basic lessons like that were really going to be so relevant now, because I think I see a lot of people that don't understand if your life is all messed up, you probably the culprit. You played a part in that, and there's people that don't quite get that. Whereas, I was kind of raised in a space that said, if your life's messed up, you need to look in the mirror, And so, long story short, when I got older, I had a baby when I was 18, and I didn't get my first girlfriend until I was about 17 years old, and she got pregnant, which was very scary. And I went to college mainly because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I had to get out of the house. I did not want to go to the military because I didn't want to get shot. I didn't want to go work at Taco Bell, and that's what I was doing at the time. And so I went to school because I read somewhere that going to school can help you have a better life. And so I went to school, and when I got to college, my daughter was born, and that was one of those things that makes you wake up like, oh, holy crap! If I don't get it together, find something, then I won't even be able to take care of this baby. So I started studying really hard, and I did not know how to study. I never studied before. But what I did was my little secret was I thought about the things I did understand. 2 things I understood was I understood hard work because I worked at Taco Bell and I worked 10, 12-hour shifts. So I said, hey, if I can go work at Taco Bell for minimum wage for 10 hours a day, I can study for 5 hours a day. That's easy, right? And then also from sports, I learned in sports that if you want to succeed, you got to work hard. You don't wait to the last minute. You plan in advance. You work hard. If you want to beat the next guy, you work harder than the next guy, right? So I literally took everything I learned from playing sports and working at Taco Bell, and I applied it to my academics. So here I am in college. I'm scared to death. I'm like, I don't belong here. These white people got these little glasses. They look all smart, their little backpacks and everything. I'm in the library. Like, I feel like I'm scared. I'm like, they're gonna find that I'm faking it. That I'm not really, I don't belong here. And the crazy thing was, I didn't know that most college students don't study that hard, that they wait to the last minute and all this other stuff. And so I made straight A's that first semester. I had the highest grade point average of any Black student on the entire campus.
Amazing. And
that blew my mind, because I'm like, I'm not the smart one. I'm the stupid one. Like, what's going on here? And so through that experience, that's when I learned a couple of things. One, I wasn't as dumb as I thought. And two, a lot of who we think we are is shaped by our experiences as children. And then 3, there's nothing magical about white people or anybody else. The hardest working person will usually succeed. And then 4, I finally had something that made me feel like, okay, I'm good at this, And at that point, once I grabbed it, I never let it go. And then the rest was really history at that point.
Oh, wow. You gave me the whole shebang right there, Doctor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you asked me who I am, and I did. The guy just told me to spit it out. So there you go.
Take a Oh man, look, I appreciate that. I want to take it back a little bit because I mean, you're a financial expert now, so I want to go back. You dealt with, I know, abandonment issues because your father, your biological father, was out of your life, and I know so many Black boys and Black girls go through that, either whether their mother leaves them or their father. So take us back to when you was dealing with those type of feelings. What was the bad moments and what were like? And then I know you got over it when you met your new father, but tell us about some of those tough moments dealing with abandonment.
Well, I'm a big believer that the biological parents should be raising the child together. Mm-hmm. My version of Planned Parenthood is not that the Planned Parenthood we know about. My concept of Planned Parenthood is, make a plan before you start bringing kids into the world. But obviously it's easier said than done because people get attracted to each other and they start doing, what, and babies come out, and next thing you know, the baby's raised without both parents, and it's all a complete mess. And it makes me angry to see it. It makes me very sad to see it. I think we need to be more intentional about how we build our families. And so I do believe that if you say specifically me as a boy, I do believe that little boy should have been raised by his biological father. And so while I can't say I had abandonment issues, I did have issues with being very disappointed with certain adults, particularly some of the Black men that were supposed to have done their job and they didn't do their job. There's a lot of kids right now being raised by people who are stepping in for other people who didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so part of me says, okay, if we in the village and we're in this community, all the kids, I believe all Black children are my children. If I see a child and that child's in my space and I can help that child, I'm gonna help that child. I don't care if I'm your daddy or not. I'm gonna be your dad. I might be your daddy for 10 minutes, but I'm gonna really do what I can to help you have a better life. I believe in that because I know what it feels like as a child to be sad, hurt, unloved, things like that. I don't want any child to feel that way. So I will scoop that child up because I believe that's what God wants me to do. But at the same time, I believe it is imperative that we start to have a community standard about taking care of your own damn kids, and also being thoughtful about who you have children with, and being very intentional about managing and protecting the relationship you have with the person you made that child with. I think we made it too simple and too easy for people to say, oh, we tried and we're going to break up and it's going to be fine and it's going to be just like the baby has. No, it's not. No, now you created a whole wrinkle in time that's going to have a ripple effect on your child. It's going to be a long lasting. And it's not, it hurts people's feelings sometimes when I say it that way, and I'm not beating up on anybody, but I think that people should realize that there's tools out here that you can go pick up. There's books you can read. There's videos you can watch. There's classes you can take on how to have a better family. I chose to get married 2 months ago, and that was intentional. I didn't want to get married when I was much younger. People ask me, why'd you wait till you got married? Why'd you wait till you're 40 something to get married? Because I wanted to. I did what I wanted to do. Period. You ain't gonna tell me what to do, right? That's it. Period. And I married a woman that I admire immensely. I thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm very happy to have married her. And one of the things that I had to decide to do that in order to make that move was two things. One, I had to be open-minded and realize that this is going to require a shift in my thinking. Being a father and a husband is not the same as being a single man that can do whatever I want to do.
Hello.
Exactly. And number two, I needed to be more intentional. So I said to her, and fortunately she agreed, we're on the same page on this. I said, we need to go and pick up all the tools we can find that will ensure that we can get along with each other. We are building this empire together. Our family is no different from starting a business, except it's more important than a business. So as business owners in this family, we've got to make sure we get along, because peace breeds prosperity. War creates destruction, chaos, and economic and emotional loss. So I don't want to be at war with my wife, because that's like being at war with myself. And so let's find the tools that will allow us to prosper together and to get along and work through our differences. And that is an intentional process. A lot of people take their relationships and it's like a do-it-yourself thing. They're like, well, we just figure it out, and I'm feeling this kind of way and that kind of way. And then next thing you know, your whole life's a complete mess, financially, emotionally, and otherwise, and you don't know why. Well, it might start with the way you handle your relationships.
Do you remember this? Who that is? My baby daddy. Who that is? My baby daddy. Who that is? That's just my baby daddy. That used to be my jam. I
Yeah,
don't have a baby daddy though.
I remember that song. I remember that song. And I tell you, I mean, I'm technically a baby daddy. I had a
Right.
baby when I was 18, and one thing I can tell you is I did 18 years of very high levels of child support. I did 18 years of wishing I could have a stronger relationship with my daughter. I spent 18 years wishing I could be in the same house with my child all the time, and I couldn't. And I just believe that as a father, I knew what I learned from that experience was I said, if I have another child, I'm going to be in the house with my child. That means if I marry that mama, I'm going to find a way to make sure we keep that marriage together so I can be in the house with my child. I'm not a big fan of this whole having your kids going back and forth between mom and daddy's house. I know it happens. We do what we can do, but I believe that children are safer when the father's in the house. Like I have my children that are my wife's kids, that were here before I got here. And these children are very protected and nurtured because they've got me right here in the house to make sure everything's okay, along with their mother. And then their father is also a wonderful guy that I partner with, and we coordinate in order to protect the kids. And that is, again, that's intentionality. It means getting over yourself, getting over your ego, getting over whatever feelings you might have, jealousy and all these other petty emotions we have, where we're harming children because we're putting ourselves first and not the kids. I believe in putting the damn kids first, and I wish people would consider that.
Yes, I love all what you just said right there. And one thing that I found funny is that people always say nowadays marriage is not that important. Like they take the emphasis off of marriage and say, well, just be with a person and they want to be with whoever they want to be. But my thing is, if we look at the evidence, if you look at any child, they always want their parents together. And if their parents were together before and then they get a divorce, they go through a moment of depression or sadness. So that tells me that marriage does mean something, because why else would it make the kids feel like something is broken inside themselves? Do you not agree with me in that assessment?
Yeah, I think when it comes to marriage, here's what I will say. I'm not a believer that it's my right to tell people how to live their lives, or to say, well, just because I got married, you should get married. I'm not a guy who would say that. But I would throw out 2 points to consider for people. One is that you cannot go anywhere on the planet or anywhere throughout world history and find any community that was prosperous when they did not have stable, strong families. There is no example of any community ever that had freedom and prosperity where they did not also have strong families. And so if you want to understand why our community struggles when we constantly feel like we're not free and we're not doing well economically, a lot of it's because you don't have strong family structures, and people and everybody's confused about the roles and the goals and everything else. Now, with that said, marriage, I've heard people say, well, marriage it's just a piece of paper, and and I don't disagree with that. A lot of it's a legal arrangement, it's a legal contract, just like starting a business with somebody. And that piece of paper has weight. It does have meaning, and it should not be taken lightly. And the reason that I think marriage should be something that is thought through carefully to decide if that works for you or not is because you cannot walk around with the illusion that being a long-term girlfriend or long-term boyfriend is the same as being a husband or a wife. Our society has a clear hierarchy between wife-husband status and boyfriend-girlfriend status. Even the word boy and girl, that's a child's word. When I say I'm her husband, that has a different weight than me saying, oh, I'm her boyfriend. I'm not a boy, I'm a man, right? And so what that means is that when you start dealing with the realities of life, like people getting sick and going to the hospital is not going to recognize a ride or die girlfriend the way they're going to recognize my wife. It's just not. I've had both. I've had the ride or die girlfriend, that I loved, almost as much as I love my wife, but they're like, I'm sorry, we don't have a ride or die girlfriend category on this forum, ma'am. So you're going to have to sit back in the back, right? The family doesn't even want you here. So you're going to have to leave. Right. And so the other thing is that when people die, you saw when the rapper DMX died.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
He had a long-term girlfriend. His girlfriend my God, can you imagine what it must have been like for that poor lady to have been in a 10-year relationship with DMX and all the stuff that he was dealing with and going through and doing.
Well, I blame her though, because he said on TV that they probably wouldn't get married. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was. But now she can't even get some of his financial things from his death because she wasn't married to him. So that's the bad thing about the whole situation. She didn't take care of that business up front. So
yeah, they gave all his money to his kids and they told her to get out. They said, you have no legal rights here. You don't matter. Your relationship doesn't exist. And that's a real thing. I remember I interviewed one time a lady who was who swore up and down. She was 90 something years old. She swore up and down that she had a long-term relationship with Martin Luther King and that Kera didn't know about it, but she was the one that was with him on the road. And she saw them put his dead body in the ambulance when he went to the hospital and all this other stuff. And nobody recognizes any of that. Nobody remembers any of that. That love was personal between her and him, but we only know Kera, right? So there's a standing that the wife or the husband has that you don't get when you don't sign the contract. Now, this is not me telling everybody this is what you have to do, but this is something where I would encourage those who care about this kind of thing to put that conversation on the table so that you at least know what it is, right? The only thing I would say to somebody is, don't let anybody convince you that it's just one and the same. Or, it's just a piece of paper. We got the same thing that a married couple has, because you don't. You just don't legally, And here's the thing: when somebody dies, if that man or that woman or whoever is the breadwinner for the household, and you are depending month by month for that person to come through and pay bills and handle business for the family, when they are dead, everything's gone. You can't even go to the bank and get into the bank account to get the rent money for that month. And it's because the bank is going to say, well, what legal documents do you have to show that we should be giving you access to his accounts? And that's even before you get to estate plan and everything else. So I would say that that really it's not my job to tell people what types of relationships they should have. It's the only thing I can say is be realistic about what you have and what you don't have, and make sure you know what it is before you sign up for it. That's the best advice I would give anybody.
Now, I got a question for you. Then I want you to keep it a buck, as the young folks say. Keep it a buck.
Okay.
They say men don't cry a lot, but let me tell you something. Men cry about this topic I'm about to bring up, which you just mentioned. And I want to know, Dr. Boyce, now, when you was younger, did you cry like these men cry about child support, or did you just pay the money and say, this is for my child, or did you whine too? And I'm finna sip my wine when you answer this. You better keep it 100.
You know what? I absolutely hated paying child support. And it wasn't because I didn't agree with the idea of taking care of my child. That's fine. I was raised on that. My daddy wouldn't respect me if I didn't take care of my child. What I did not like was the lack of control I had over what was done with the money. That part that really bothered me. If I'm writing this check, and the money I had to send was, the check was so big that I could not physically bring myself to write the check. I'd say, look, just take it out of my paycheck. Just take the money before I even see it. I don't even want to look at it because it was so painful to pay it. And and it's so yeah. So what it feels like, it's for a lot of guys. I think for some guys, I'm talking about the good men. I can't speak for the guys that don't take care of their kids. Those are not those are not my people. Those are not my guys. My guys that I connect with are the guys who understand it. That's your seed. You come through for your seed. But I understand the frustration that they feel, because it feels like taxation without representation. Like you paying all this money and you ain't got no say on where the money goes. And so what I say to them is, maybe a good approach to this really is because we know babies come from sex, right? People sometimes act like they forgot it. Yeah, right. I know. I just read that this week. I know, crazy, right?
I tell you, no lie, my daddy still asks me, don't I know they come from a stork? I'm like, come on, give that up.
I found that out. It's not the stork, it's the sex that does it, right? And what I've actually said to guys that to challenge them to think more strategically is, since you don't know which sex is going to necessarily make the baby all the time, but you do know babies come from sex. So if you don't have sex, there's no chance of having a baby. But if you do have sex, there is a chance. So maybe from a strategic standpoint, you take a step back And before you even engage with a woman on that level and give her access to your valuable seed, your legacy, right?
How you say it,
check her mindset. See what kind of person she is. How does she view the role of the father? There's some women that think that daddies are optional. They just plug and play. It don't really matter. Or maybe they feel like the daddy should be around if I think it's okay, unless he pisses me off or whatever. But then there's some women that really believe, no, I want my child to always have a relationship with his father. I will go out of my way to make that happen. I will bend over backwards and do backflips to make sure that occurs. That's the type of woman that I would be comfortable sharing myself with, because the worst feeling in the world is when your child is torn away from you. I know for women, it's almost, it's a fate worse than death. And for men, it's pretty close too. When you got this little child out there and it's yours and you can't raise the child the way you want to, that's a terrible feeling, and I would encourage guys to think it through so you don't end up in that situation. And the way we get trapped in those scenarios is not thinking through, what you lay down with. If you lay down with everything with a big butt and a smile, there's a lot of crazy, terrible women who have a nice booty and a nice smile, and I just say, you got to be able to think more strategically than that. You can't go living your life like an animal, or you're going to end up in an animal type situation. You're going to end up in a cage. That's where animals belong.
Oh my God. Somebody on this show just said that. I can't remember who it was, but you need to pay attention to Judge Joe Brown.
Oh yeah, Judge Brown, that's a smart man. And that maybe that's what it is. Maybe some people can just see it a little bit better. I don't know. Judge Joe Brown is one of the smartest people I ever met. I mean, that man has a photographic memory and he's very honest and he's just great to talk to. I love, he tells great stories and all that. And maybe everybody doesn't have that, but I choose to believe that if a man is thoughtful and deliberate about how he engages with the world, what he manifests in the world, that he can actually put himself and his family in a situation that makes their lives better than they would have been without him. And that to me is a rule. I was talking to another guy earlier today about a couple of rules for manhood. And one of the rules was, I believe that a man should be sturdy and reliable in what he says. Like, if you tell your daughter you're going to pick up at 3:00 at school, you have to do that. It's a very, very important that you do that, because once she loses faith and trust in you, it's hard to get that back. So be reliable, stick to what you say, follow through with your commitments. The second thing I would throw in there is, I believe as a man that my goal is to ensure that anybody in my circle, because men have power, we have a lot of power, and if we choose to embrace that power, and as a man that has power in my circle, my goal is to make sure that everybody in that space, that their life is better because I was there than it would have been if I wasn't there, right? That I've used my power in a good way and not a bad way, because you think about so many examples where the daddy was messed up. He can't get past his own issues. Maybe he got a drinking problem, or he's beating everybody's ass in the house and creating nightmares and chaos and trauma for everybody. It has a big ripple effect, and it's a terrible thing, right? Well, when a man is intentional about productive use of his power, you can have the opposite effect, right? Everybody's life is better because you were there. And I think that simple goal of just saying, wherever I'm at, the people are going to be like, man, I'm glad Boyce was there. That's my goal in life. And that's what I want people to say about me at my funeral. That it's literally that simple.
I love that. Oh, you be spinning the fast. Go ahead, Boyce. Go ahead. Look, so I heard a lot of celebrity women say this, two in particular. I won't say their names, but they said if they ever got married, they want to get married, but they can see themselves living the kind of life where they have their own house, their husband has his own house, or either they have their own room, their husband has their own room. So I want to ask you, being someone who just got married, and congratulations, by the way, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What do you think about couples who want to have separate rooms and also separate bank accounts? Because a lot of times, I mean, let's be honest, women are told, keep a little money to the side now, because we don't know how that man gonna act. So what is your thoughts about that, being a financial expert and just being a man who's married yourself?
I think that in a question like something like that, there's rarely a one size fits all solution. It's really about sort of figuring out what are the rules of this relationship, period, and how, and then talking about that in advance, so you're not trying to figure it out after you done tied the knot, right? And because there's some people who don't want that. They think they feel that if you're not overlapping in a lot of different ways, that you're not connected, right? Some people need to feel connected in order for them to feel like the marriage is real. And when they don't feel connected, then a lot of things fall off. The attraction falls off. A lot of things fall off. So, I would say that it's a matter of figuring out, when you're talking about two people or even any group of people coming together. Dr. Nicole Price, who's actually a leadership expert, she's actually my leadership coach that I talk to all the time about ways to be an effective leader. She says that in order for a group or anybody to get along and achieve a common goal, you got to have three things. Mm-hmm. One, you got to agree on what the goal is. Two, you have to agree on what everybody's role is. Three, you have to agree on the process that we're going to use to achieve that goal. And that, I think, would apply for a family. So if somebody says, well, should the man always make all the money, or should the woman stay at home, things like that? Well, no, it depends on the couple. What did y'all agree on? Because if I think that I'm supposed to stay at home and you think you're supposed to stay at home, then it ain't gonna work, because we both ain't nobody gonna be bringing home the bacon, right? So that communication piece, it all comes back to communication. So you can find the common goals, agreed upon roles, and the common process. So I would say that, to your point about the separation, I tend to be a person that enjoys the idea of being able to have a relationship where you are connected with other people, but always maintaining your unique identity. I've seen a lot of people that feel that when they get in a relationship, they just lose themselves. Like, I didn't know who I was anymore because I was only in this relationship and that was it. I don't know how healthy that is. I know that wouldn't necessarily work for me. And also, I think that the situation can dictate whether or not you need to, as a security measure, have a little bit to the side. When you talk about just the money part in particular, I've seen a lot of people, mostly women. I wrote a book 15 years ago called Financial Lovemaking. And when I wrote that book and I was doing my research on the book, I talked to a lot of women who were just financially duped. I mean, it was mostly women. The men had their own complaints. Usually it was in areas related to child support, or she was a gold digger, which she, took all my money, stuff like that. For the women, it was trust. Like, I trusted this man to handle all the finances, and found out he was doing something crazy with the money. Like, one lady told me that she was saving money for her daughter's college fund and putting like $10 and $20 in a box under the bed. And her husband was going right behind her and pulling money out to go and pay for his lunch. And so she was wondering why the money in the box wasn't growing. She's putting all this money and it wasn't growing. And she found out what her husband was doing. And she was so mad, she was about to divorce him over that. She said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that you literally ate and she said the SHIT word, I'm gonna try not to cuss, but she said, you literally ate and crapped out our daughter's future. Like, you literally did it. You literally crapped out our daughter's future. Like, so she was really angry with him. And that was a type of betrayal that went deeper than just the money. Like, he would have been better off if he had cheated on her. Right. So ultimately, I think that for people, I know when I talk to my daughters, I do have different conversations with them about money than I do with our son. And with my daughters, the conversation centers around, as a security measure, make sure you know how to make your own money. And then that way you can choose men based on other criteria. You're not just choosing the man that has the most money. Because I think that's a big mistake a lot of women make, that they think a rich man is automatically a good man. And that's not true. That's as silly as men choosing women based on the big butt and the smile. No, there are a lot of terrible men who have lots of money who will use that money to manipulate you and to harm you in ways that you can't even imagine. And so here's the thing, but the reason that you're attracted to the money might be not because you're a gold digger, it's because for 100,000 years of evolution, women are wired to be attracted to men that have the most resources. That's just natural. You can't fight that really most of the time. So if you satisfy that need, meaning that you have a little bit of money already coming in, you already know how to make your own money, then you can pick based on other criteria, and you're not picking just based on money. And in fact, the analogy I would give is like this, right? Let's say I really got to go to the bathroom, like really, really bad. And somebody says, okay, well, you can go into building A, hotel room A that doesn't have a bathroom, but it's beautiful. Or you can go to hotel room B, which is a raggedy hotel room, but there's a bathroom in there. Which room am I going to choose?
The good one.
I'm going to choose the one with the bathroom. Right. That's the good one, right? In that situation, if I really got to go to the bathroom, the room I pick is going to be based on one criteria, the one that has a bathroom. I can't pick the one that ain't got a bathroom in it, right? But if I've already gone to the bathroom, so to speak, and I don't have that need, then I can pick the best place for me. So a lot of times, if you have this inability to make your own money and this craving for things that money can provide, security, whatever the case may be, you're going to be more likely to choose someone who can fulfill that basic low-level need. Whereas if you fulfill that need on your own, then you can pick based on a broader range of criteria that doesn't have you just chasing the man with the most money.
I tell you what, Dr. Boyce, I don't want people to think that I believe that you are Kevin Samuels. So that was the last question about marriage. But now it's time to have some fun. I want to play a game with you, sort of a game that I like to call headlines. I picked some of the funniest headlines, not even funny, but some headlines I saw that I want your opinion on. So let's go with it. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So this first one here, Alfonso Ribeiro. You know who that is?
Yep. That's Carlton.
Yep, Carlton off the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay, so he says that he's not accepted by Black people. Now, Black Twitter had to remind him why. Now, he talked about being ostracized by the Black community for having a white wife. He spoke exclusively with Atlanta Black Star about the stigma that came with playing Carlton, the iconic character. Now, Alfonso is the current host of America's Funniest Home Videos. So I just wanted your opinion on this because I was thinking, like, we don't even think about him. So I don't even know where he got that from.
Maybe that's where he got it from, is that we're not thinking about him. But the thing about it is, what have you really done to make yourself relevant to Black people?
Yeah.
Carlton is, I'm gonna call him Carlton. I keep forgetting to call him Alfonso. He's fine. People know who he is. Nobody hates him. Maybe he's self-conscious about his white wife. But that doesn't make me want to make fun of him. I have people in my own family that marry white people, and as long as they act right, I don't care. That's your choice, right? You make that decision. No, he's not Malcolm X. Right? If he was trying to be Malcolm X, then you might say, well, how are you going to be Malcolm X if you married to that white lady, right? Mm-hmm. You can challenge that, but he's not trying to do that. He's trying to just be an actor that has a career. And as far as I'm concerned, he's just like the white guys. He just happens to look like me. And I don't watch America's Funniest Home Videos. I'm not, worried about any of these other things he's doing. So I think that rejection might be a projection of him feeling an insecurity there. I don't think anybody's done anything to hurt him.
Yeah, I think the Black audience just sees him as a cornball. I mean, kind of like a Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson obviously more cooler than Alfonso. But I mean, Black, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say Black Twitter responded with an old video of Carlton at a rock concert where he grabbed the mic and he literally said, and I'm paraphrasing, some lovely white puss in here. I don't use that word, but I'm using it for this quote. I've been known for effing some white girls in my lifetime. I walk out with lovely blonde white chicks all the time when I come to these events. Something like that. So Black Twitter basically roasted him and said, well, maybe that's why we don't really bump with you.
Yeah, you should be roasted for that. Because I think if a Black woman said that, and some women have acted that way, we would call her out for that too. And I think that is call outable. Look, if you like different women or whatever, that's fine. That's your choice. That's your life. But when you're kind of going out of your way, almost like you got this chance on the stage to say anything, and that's what you choose to say. You choose to brag about the fact that you love white women. Then what's wrong with you? Like, that's a weird statement. So I didn't alienate him in my head before you made that statement, but now I'm alienating him. I'm like, why? What is that? Why can't you just go live your life and keep that to yourself? Because I think now you're identifying who you are. Again, and really, if you think about it more deeply, I do the same thing, except when I talk about women, I talk about how much I love Black women. So I'm identifying myself in a specific way. And I've had people challenge me on that. Like, why do you keep on talking about the fact that your wife is Black? Well, because goddamn it, I'm proud of that shit. Like, I'm proud of the fact that I'm loyal to Black women. And I want to make that point because sometimes when I say something, it can be misinterpreted. Like if I point out a particular situation with a Black woman, I say, I don't like that. They'll say, oh, you don't like Black women. I'm like, no, I'm very loyal to Black women. But because I'm part of the family, I have the right to be honest in my critique in certain areas, right? Just like a Black woman who's loyal, like we know which women are really down for us and which ones aren't. The ones who are down, have the right to come in and say, what are you doing? That's stupid. Like a Vicky Diller can come in and criticize me on almost anything because I know that she's doing it out of love, and she's not the same as, say, a Candace Owens criticizing me when she's sitting next to her little white husband while she's doing it. So I think at the end of the day, maybe Carlton is alienating himself. And I don't particularly like that comment at all.
Yeah, I don't like it either. And I mean, what do black men who just prefer white women think, or even black women who prefer white men? I mean, you do come from black people, so I think that it's crazy for people like that not to think that, you know, people would expect you to be with somebody who looks like you. I mean, when people get to the point of being disrespectful, then okay, and you may not feel the same way as I do, but that's how I feel. Like, people can have a preference, but why wouldn't you want to be with somebody who looks like you? Don't you believe your mother and your father are beautiful, even if they weren't the best? Like, I mean, I can't turn this down. Like, that's what I'm rocking with.
Yeah, we can't deny that who you choose as a mate is a deep reflection of who you are as a person, how you view yourself. You know, like my wife is, you know, she comes from the hood of Gary, Indiana, and that's because I understand that. I relate to black women who grew up in black families, you know. But then again, though, you know, she's also, some people criticize me for the fact that my wife is light skinned, and then I had to think about that, like, oh,
really?
is it? Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it's a legitimate critique, even though I think it's unfair to ostracize all light skinned people, because you see that kind of crazy reverse.
You think that's legitimate? I mean,
well, let me tell you where it came from. When I saw a picture of my wife next to my mother, they look identical. Her and my mother look a lot alike, and they actually say that you're attracted to people that remind you of your parent of the opposite sex, for good or bad. So if you have a crappy man for a daddy, a lot of women are attracted to crappy men because they look for men that remind them of their father. And also with my wife, she when we were younger, you know, and we were friends for a long time, and she got hit on. I remember her getting hit on by NBA players and NFL players and rich guys and everything, and she wasn't interested in that. She chose to marry a college professor. Well, her father was a college professor.
Okay.
Right? And so she wanted the smart guy. And so really, you know, who you pick is a reflection of how you think. People want to act like it don't matter. No, it does matter. You know, but is it all right to necessarily criticize that? No, unless you draw attention to your situation. So if you decide to marry somebody who's white, I don't think most people are going to give you too much of a hard time with that. You might get some funny looks, right? That comes with territory, but there's a difference between making that choice versus going out and saying, well, I chose white women because black women ain't this and black women ain't that. Then you're starting to trigger people in a very unfair way, and they're going to trigger you back. And also, I think it's fundamentally unfair to even talk about black relationships without it having an understanding of where we are as a community. Our families were destroyed. The war on drugs incarcerated so many black men that it destabilized our families for at least 3 or 4 generations. What was the effect of that? Well, because there were so many black men sent to prison, and it affected how their sons think. You know, I don't care what anybody says, a son without a daddy is going to be different from a son that had a strong daddy. It's just a fact. And so what that did was, and the studies have shown this, there is an imbalance between the marriage eligible black women and the number of marriage eligible black men. Marriage eligibility being measured by your income level. A lot of men ain't ready to get married. If you ain't got no job, you ain't trying to take on a family and all that stuff, right? So education level and income level, women tend to want to be with a man who makes at least as much money, who has at least as much education. So effectively, there's an imbalance. So there's a scarcity, not a complete scarcity, not to the point where we don't exist, but there's not as many like educated, high income black men as there are black women. And some people misinterpret that to mean that, you know, if you're a black woman, you ain't got no man, it's because you won't act right, or you won't do this and you won't do that. Yeah. I think there's room to have that conversation too, right? In terms of us understanding each other and gender roles and all that, because white people done made us crazy. But people also have to acknowledge the imbalance in the ecosystem. That The Economist wrote a really good article about this. This is a group of white people in England. They studied the black community in America, and they said that for every 1 percentage point increase in the incarceration rate, there was a 2% increase in the percentage of black women who did not get married. And they said in America, that's the big problem they have over there in America, is that black women can't really find husbands the way they used to. And they think it's related to all these other things, and it's not.
Well, to your one of your points that you made there, I just want to say a big conversation that should be had to me is that, and I think a lot of people try to hide this fact, but I know people in interracial relationships, and I can honestly say, from being an outside person looking in, I know for a fact some of these people are lacking confidence and they don't like the color of their skin themselves. And that's a conversation a lot of people try to shy away from, because they'll try to take it like I'm just hating on them, or I'm trying to tell them who to date. Date whoever you want. It's not, I don't, whatever. But a lot of people are hiding behind these interracial relationships, self-hate. And they want their children to come out with crinkly, cute hair. They think it's good hair. They want their children to have a certain skin tone, and people just need to be honest about that. Yeah. I see it all the time. I see. Never mind. I ain't even gonna get into it. I ain't gonna get into it because people need to be honest, man. They don't find the nappy hair pleasing or whatever. They look down on it, so they want to have mulatto children to have children they feel like have those qualities that they wish they had.
Yeah, those kids with the good hair.
Yeah, and more than that,
Oh, I know so many examples of that. I dated a girl in college, and she just worshiped white people. Thought white people were Jesus Christ on earth. And years later, I looked up and I saw that she was married to a white man and had this little, mulatto baby. And I could see her saying, "Oh my God, my daughter is so much prettier than me." And right. That's a real thing, right? And that colorism's real. And also, I've seen some situations where sometimes I've seen people where they will rather than working on their own personal dysfunction, they will find somebody in another race to kind of absorb that dysfunction. So if you are a Black man who doesn't necessarily like accountability and will want to be in a situation where you're never going to be challenged, maybe you'll go date the white girl because she'll let you kind of walk all over like a doormat.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, or if you're one of these loud, obnoxious Black women who thinks that that being a strong woman means getting on everybody's nerves and just being a complete bitch all the time.
What you trying to say?
No, you know what I'm talking about. You know women like that. You know what I'm talking about. And they think anybody that challenges them is somehow, well, you telling me what to do. I'm telling you, some people don't like that. Like, calm down. I'm gonna be honest. I'm biased. I like women that got class and grace. I like the Claire Huxtables of the world. I like those women that can show you their power without necessarily trying to act like a man, trying to be loud, trying to get ghetto. Don't like none of that, right? And so effectively, I've seen women like that go marry a white guy because he'll let them kind of just do all that crazy stuff, and he won't say nothing about it because he don't want to appear racist. He thinks, he wants to get along by agreeing and co-signing to everything you're doing. So I think that there are just people in our community who are weak and don't want to be challenged, period. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to be challenged, then yeah, it's easy to go hit the exit door, go find somebody else that from another community and let them deal with the nonsense, right? But those of us who are strong, I think those of us who are strong and understand the struggle that we're in and are dedicated to the struggle, those are the people that I really admire. Like I really have a lot of admiration for that Black woman who was dealing with a man who had some issues that come with being Black in America, and she helped him through those issues. I'm one of those crazy Black men. I got anger and trigger and trauma and everything. I dealt with racism, whatever. And my wife understands that because she's a Black woman in America. And I don't think a Black woman from another country can really get that. A white woman, an Asian woman. I don't think any of those women can understand me the way my Black woman does. And also, I see where her trauma of being a Black woman in America comes out. And sometimes she'll do stuff where I'll be like, I'm serious. Like sometimes you'll be like, those guys are talking about how great the Asian women were. I wonder if they would be acting like this, right? but because we understand what we've gone through to get here, that it wasn't her fault that maybe her father wasn't there and she had to sort of figure some things out. It leads to patience, patience and strength and really conviction and commitment for you to say, look, I want to go through this struggle with a Black woman, because if you look at the positives and rather than the negatives, I don't know anybody who's ever rolled with a Black man more than the strong Black women do. Y'all been protecting us since slavery.
Hello.
Right. And so I'm not going to go sign up with Becky because I don't trust Becky. I don't think Becky's going to stick with me when I'm really going through the fire, but a good quality Black woman will. And that's what I honor and respect.
Thank you so much for saying that. Y'all leave Dr. Boyce alone because his wife light skin. I don't. Is she lighter than me? A little lighter?
Yeah, she's high yellow.
I've seen her, but
yeah, the kids make fun of her. They say my mom's white.
Oh man, look, y'all leave this man alone. He with a black woman. Y'all complaining when they don't get us. At least he with one. Okay, leave him alone. Look, next headline. Now this bothers me because I have gotten into arguments online about this. Not this particular story, but you'll get it. So rapper actor defends, Ice-T defends his wife Coco. Okay, she's still breastfeeding their 5-year-old daughter Chanel. Now Ice-T says, let me get the quote. He said she just likes to suck mom's boob every now and then. Me too. Now the daughter is 5 years old. What are you doing?
Love Ice-T, but ain't no 5-year-olds breastfeeding into my house. That's a part of his life I cannot relate to. I don't think it's anybody's business unless they make it other people's business. I don't understand why you breastfeeding a 5-year-old. I think that's a little bit dysfunctional, but hey, that's if it works for you.
Hell, you being too Dr. Boyce, what happened to you? You being too nice. Hell no.
I don't. You know what it is? I
Get
don't
your
really.
boob out your daughter's mouth. If your kid is old enough to say, "Mommy, I want a Happy Meal," the kid is too old for your breast. Okay? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I just see it as like that. It's weird. I don't understand that. I did see that story, and I just kind of looked at it like, okay, that's a little weird. I don't know of any 5-year-olds that are breastfeeding. I think that's a little too old. So there you go. That's my opinion on it. Yeah, I wouldn't do the same thing.
Another celebrity said, and I believe it was Tamar Braxton, she said, "Well, why don't you just have another baby? Like, let your 5-year-old go."
Yeah. I think that's a little bit strange, and and it's I don't even know what to do with it. I literally don't know. I'm just stuck. I'm at a loss for words on that one.
Well, I got a little thing for you. I don't know if you've seen this. It's one of the craziest photos I've ever seen in my life. So a couple who's engaged, a black man, speaking of interracial couples, and his wife, fiance, for their photo shoot, they took a picture like he was a slave. And I guess, I don't know if she was a slave master or whatever it was, but the caption read on the photograph, "Days passed and everything changed. Our love got stronger and stronger. He was no longer a slave. He was part of the family." Part 2, pre-wedding season. Now, did you see that photo on social media?
Yeah.
What was your opinion?
It was very bad visual. And I mean, it's already awkward that that you're marrying a white lady, and then you do this whole plantation reference. I think it was in very poor taste, and I think that they didn't understand how it could be, no matter what your intentions are. Don't nobody want to see no plantation pictures. Like, that's just it's just not. There's nothing cool or interesting about that. It's just disturbing, I would wonder if what kind of white woman she is. Obviously, I assume. But then maybe not. But I'm going to make the assumption that she's not a person that is intending to offend Black people. But maybe that's her first lesson as a white woman, is like, don't be taking no plantation pictures. Like, stop that. Like, we are human beings, and let's not even go back to that point. So I think that was like if I have somebody, if I marry a Jewish woman, I'm not going to take a picture in a concentration camp, go to Auschwitz. And I think that's one of the things about slavery that we don't accept and acknowledge, is that slavery was as bad for us, worse for us actually, than the Nazi Holocaust. And when you look at it like that, I encourage anybody, anytime somebody wants to make a reference to slavery or prison, which they're actually connected. Historically, you can draw a direct connection. The states that have the most slaves have the most Black prison inmates. So it's all connected. So if you ask me, like, is it okay, like, for Lil Nas X to have the video with the men twerking in prison, I just flip it and say, would it be okay if I did a video with a Jewish rapper and we had men twerking in a concentration camp? Would that be okay? And I don't think it would be okay. So if it's not okay for y'all, then it's not okay for us.
Well, I just want to say, because you won't say it, but y'all out of y'all goddamn minds. Are you kidding me? shame you, brother. Not you, but that brother in the photograph. How dare you? I wish all the ancestors from all the generations came back and just put one hand together and slap the hell out of him. I wouldn't say slap the sense out of him because he don't got none left. Are you kidding me? You letting these folks make a fool of you. What?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's I had a friend like that. I had a friend that married a white lady, and growing up, he kind of didn't understand when he was being made fun of and being disrespected. And like I remember we were little, and he was like one of those play cousins that you hang out with. That's like almost like a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And we were riding our bikes, and this white girl said something like, "You're pretty cute for a black guy." And he just thought that was the best compliment in the world. And I was only 9 or 10. I said, that don't sound like no compliment. Like that don't.
Why?
She wasn't saying nothing good. And later on in life, he ended up marrying a white woman. And it was real funny because I remember the lady was like, she was one of real extra woke white women, like that felt like she was paying her reparations by marrying a black man, I guess. And she was actually an African-American studies major. And she actually sent me an email and asked me, she said, why doesn't he accept his blackness? Now, that was the weirdest thing to have the white woman that your friend married emailing you asking why her husband hates being black. And that I just think that so a lot of times you can connect something psychological with that. I don't think it means that these people are necessarily just crazy, but it does say something about. I don't think there's anybody who's black who really loves being black and loves their blackness and thinks black is truly beautiful, who feels they have to go outside of the black community to get married. That's why even when we talked about Kamala Harris, I didn't mean to be disrespectful when I said it, but sometimes things come off harsh when I say it. But I said, so you telling me this lady went to a HBCU, met all those black men, just thousands of black men through her life, but yet she ends up marrying a white guy. How does that happen? How many black women do you know? Something's going on psychologically.
They don't want to hear that though. I mean, I said y'all out your goddamn minds, but I mean, it was more to that. It was a whole story behind that, but they just needed to hear that part. So, one more headline. So, Snoop Dogg slams the NBA, the NFL, says black people are like slaves due to lack of executive representation. Now, he said, why don't we have an owner in the NFL? That's just racist, period, point blank. We need to own a team. The NFL currently now only has 2 owners that are minorities. Jacksonville Jaguars owner, Shahid Khan, and Buffalo Bills co-owner, Kim Pagula, but neither is black. So he went on to say, Snoop Dogg, we got 1/2 owner in the NBA, Michael Jordan, but the whole league is 90% black. So we still the slaves and they still the masters. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Snoop is obviously right, but he's right in the wrong kind of way. The reason that you don't own anything is because these men have money and power, but they don't think like bosses. They don't think like they're not in tune with the masculine power of manifesting. A man can manifest what he wants to see in real life. So they shouldn't own a team. These brothers should be owning a league. You know, why don't you own a league? Why have you not gotten together with all your social media following and all the money you have and all the connections you have and everything else? Why have you not got together and created a league? What's stopping you? The NFL was created by a bunch of people that were far broker than any of y'all have ever been. And they were selling teams like the Chicago Bears for $500. The Chicago Bears are now worth $3 billion. Just a couple of generations later, it took about 1.5 generations for the Chicago Bears to be $1 billion franchise off a $500 investment. So why in the hell are you still sitting around begging white people when you got, between all of y'all, you got billions of dollars in the bank? Well, because you don't know how to think like a boss. You're still thinking like a slave, like an employee. So rather than simply being mad at white people for taking advantage of our lack of vision, maybe we need to challenge black people to have more vision in the first place. You know, ain't no white man gonna stop you if you try to go and create something of your own. You're stopping yourself. And so I think Snoop is right. I mean, there should be more black owners in the NBA, but that's not our league. That's their league. And if you, I guess if we, you know, maybe if he keeps putting the pressure on, maybe they'll let a couple black people trickle in or whatever, but that will never create the kind of power and opportunity that you have from developing an industrialized mindset that leads to the elevation of the masses of black people. All you will get if you get a couple of owners in the NBA is you're going to get more of a black elite. You know, and that's so you already have that. You have Black people that are doing well, a few of them, you know, like that, just like that one Black person that gets a real good job, right? And they ain't nobody else got a job but you, but somehow you think you're helping the whole community because you got a good job and nobody else did. And everybody sitting there broke and starving, but they celebrating the fact that you got a good job. The Black man who lifts his community is the man who goes back and creates an institutional infrastructure that develops thousands of jobs. And the reason that we don't do that is because we don't have examples and templates that lead us to understand this kind of thing. If you go back to school, when you're studying Black history and they're teaching you about maybe Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, that's fine. But they should also be teaching them about A.G. Gaston. A.G. Gaston died, he was worth $130 million. He created industry. He created many businesses that employed thousands of Black people. They should also be teaching about Marcus Garvey. The Niagara movement impacted millions of Black people all around the world, right? You should study those who are creators, manifestors, and builders instead of studying people who are just pretty much high-paid employees, right? So the NBA, I'm a little bit disappointed. I think they're going to figure it out, right? At some point, you got these guys that are becoming billionaires. LeBron has made $1 billion now, and there's a lot of other people out there. And at some point, somebody's going to say, hey, why don't we go ahead and pay it forward? Go ahead and make the investment spiritually and in terms of time, resources, and everything else, so that the next generation can have a true power play. The reason that they don't start their own leagues and all this other stuff is because they're comparing the newborn baby to a full-grown man. They're saying, well, if we create this little league, we're going to lose money for a little bit. We're not going to make as much. We'll be making maybe 50 million a year when we could be making $1 billion a year with the NBA, NFL, or whatever collectively, right? That's what they're comparing to. They're comparing their tiny little business to this big, gigantic league that's been around 100 years. What they should be comparing, though, is instead of comparing your tiny newborn baby to the big NFL, look at what your baby will be in 100 years once it's fully grown. That's what makes you invest in the baby, because you're thinking, okay, 100 years from now, all this is going to be ours. But somebody has to have the vision. Somebody has to plant the seed. And the reason you don't have a harvest is because nobody really wants to plant the damn seed, because it takes time to water a seed and make it grow. But you got to plant a seed. If you ever want to have real power in the Black community, you must have people planting seeds. That's the only way we're going to ever have real power, period.
See, I was thinking that there was something more to it with why they haven't done it yet. I think they will be stopped. I think it's companies that maybe they have endorsement with that say, hey, if you do this, you won't get this. And they say they just want to keep power in the white people's hands, because my thinking is, why hasn't it been done? And whenever Black people can't come together to do things, it's always been destroyed. So I don't know, that's just my thinking on it. And
well, I mean, people, I don't know. I think it's naive to think that white people are ever going to wake up and just want to give all their wealth and power away. Right. I just don't know any smart people who do that, who say, this is our league. We got all the power and all the money, but you can have it all. People ain't going to do that. You're going to have to take that. You got to go create something of your own. If you can't do that, then you're not going to have it, period. Well,
look, hopefully you got a little time, but that was headlines. I want to ask you, because we got to get into hip hop while you're here. Because you've been talking now. You've been talking about hip hop. You've been talking about Baby, Little Nas X, Migos. You've been talking about these rappers apologizing. Where do you want to start first, Dr. Boyce?
Well, let's start with the Baby. I saw a picture of the Baby wearing a diaper, and I guess that's why I call him the Baby. And I'm real fascinated with this idea of grown men calling themselves babies, or calling themselves Lil this and Lil that. I'm Lil whatever, right? And then there's actually a rapper called Lil Baby, which is interesting. I guess that's where you're going to naturally go with that. And I think that they have to understand that there's a history in America where the goal was always to keep the Black man as a little baby or as a little woman, like one or the other. That's the only two ways usually Black men can elevate in society, especially straight Black men or whatever, is if you either little, you're a baby, or you want to be a woman, or you're gay or whatever, right? Those, and no disrespect to any of those people in those groups, but if you are a man that stands on his own 2 feet, that wants to be masculine and stuff like that, that's going to cause a conflict. And so with the Baby, you got to understand what's happening, right? The world is a classroom, and the lesson you're learning right now by watching him apologizing over and over and over again is this. Understand this. You have this man who's on stage. He's pretending to be masculine. He's pretending to be the man. He's got a shirt off, and he's like, I'm this. I got the gold chains. I got the money. I got the women. But now they've reduced you to a little baby, and you're doing what a baby does. When a baby is upset, a baby cries, a baby whines, right? A baby doesn't solve his own problems, a baby can't fight back, the baby only knows how to cry. So right now they've got him looking like a little baby. And that is an intentional buck breaking strategy to make sure that they let him know who's really in charge. Okay. Oh, so you gonna say this thing? Now, mind you, pay attention. They'll let him call black people the N-word all day long. They'll let him say whatever he wants to say about black women. They'll let him promote drugs and murder all in the black community. But you say something about that other group, it's like, oh, no. We're going to let you know who's really in charge. We're going to make a point here. So he's been apologizing over and over and over again. And they did the same thing with Nick Cannon. Same thing happened with Kevin Hart. Same thing happened with some other celebrities. And that's a process that they're making an example out of him to let all the other artists know, like, look, you can go destroy your own community and we're going to pay you. We'll pay you to do that because you're doing our work at that point. But you come in here, you bring that stuff across the fence. No, we're going to remind you who's boss. So that's a masterclass, and people learn that the reason he's begging is because he has no true wealth and no true power that insulates him from the wrath of his slave masters.
So, Dr. Boyce, and I totally agree with you, but if you're the baby now, what do you do? Because now the HIV and AIDS organization wants him to come and learn and speak and all this stuff. And, people posting memes of Eminem and Elton John, because years ago, Eminem, I believe, said something about the LGBTQ, and he had to get on stage and perform with Elton John. And what should the baby do at this point?
He needs to do what babies do. Do what the hell you told. Like in our house.
So it's too late. It's too late for him.
Yeah, he can't. I mean, he ain't. People got to understand. Just because you're famous don't mean you got no real power. He's already shown that. He's shown that he has no power. And in our house we have a baby. She's about 10, and the baby don't control nothing up in here. When the baby's mad, all she can do is cry, and then do what her parents told her to do. So the baby, white folks are his parents. So he's gonna do whatever the hell they tell him to do. And he's going to take whatever they give him, and hopefully he'll get back in their good graces and be able to make his money. But I personally believe that we need to stop looking to entertainers as black leaders. They're not black leaders. They're not the best among us. Some of them are the worst among us. And we need to stop thinking that somehow these people are models of black success. They're not. Because if he were a true model of black success, if you talk about entertainment industry, a guy like a D1, on the other hand, he's a complete contrast to that. D1 is a guy that could stand by his principles because D1 knows how to make over $1 million a year without having to serve a corporate plantation. D1 was recruited by Lil Wayne's record label, Cash Money Records. They wanted him badly. He told them, no, thank you, because that does not represent who I am, right? And the reason he's able to do that is because he knows how to make his own money. He has economic freedom and independence. He also cares enough about his community to have standards. See, the problem is when you don't understand wealth and you don't have any economic power, you don't have the right or the ability to have any standards. You can't have no standards because you're begging. Beggars don't have standards. Beggars take whatever they can get. So little baby is doing what babies do. He's begging for any opportunity they'll give him because he does not have the power or the ability to have any standard whatsoever.
Okay, but we use the word buck breaking. Well, is there any way not to be broke then if you don't have any power? I mean, just shut up. Should we just shut up there?
Well, for him, it would be hard. I mean, he'd have to walk away from a lot, right? But if you're talking about, if I'm sitting there talking to my son and explaining, look, this is what happens, son, when you don't prepare yourself for battle. If you don't prepare, I talk to my daughter and I say to her, what are the 3 keys to success? She'll say practice, preparation, and perseverance. And focusing on that word preparation, I say it so many times that they get tired of hearing. I say preparation is the key to success. Preparation is the key to success. What that means is that battles are won before they begin. If you want to win an NFL Super Bowl, then you don't start practicing the day before the game. You practice months in advance. You prepare years in advance as a team to get ready to win a Super Bowl. So same thing. When you go to battle against white supremacy, if you're not ready, you will get your butt kicked every damn time. So generally speaking, the rule is that if you want to go be a rapper or whatever you want to do, go do those things. but you prepare economically. That means that you understand how to make money. You understand how to make your money independently. You save and invest your money. You don't trick your money off on stupid stuff. You create multiple streams of income. You get assets and other investments and other forms of wealth, so that when the situation gets hot, you have that ability to give the middle finger to anybody and walk away from that situation. That's what you call FU money. Right. So if Lil Baby had FU money, or the baby, whatever he is, if the baby had FU money, if he was already caved out and said, I'm like Rihanna, I'm a billionaire, I got businesses and brands and wealth everywhere, y'all can keep y'all's little money, then he would be able to maintain his integrity and maintain his masculinity. But instead, he has none of those things. And I think that's why he's begging.
But the problem is, Dr. Boyce, and I'll leave it alone, is a lot of us don't have that. I mean, he got more than a lot of people do have. So, I mean,
well, you probably got more than you think, though. You got more than you think. Remember, economic freedom does not mean that you're rich. Also, making a lot of money does not mean that you're going to be wealthy. Making a lot of money doesn't mean as much as whether or not you keep a lot of money, and also whether you invest a lot of money, a lot of the money that you get. So the way people get economic security is not through a high income. You get economic security by taking the income you have and being intelligent with that money and where you put those resources. So I know a lot of people who have more economic freedom than a lot of millionaire rappers, and they only make $40,000, $50,000 a year. They just, my daughter is a great example of that. My daughter is, she's not my biological daughter, but I love her like a daughter. And she doesn't make a lot of money. She makes about maybe 40, I don't know, maybe about 40, 50,000, something like that. And she's very economically free because she saves, she invests, she educates herself, she has multiple streams of income, and also she's not an economic hoe, meaning that she's not into the materialism. She's not out trying to sell her soul for money. She's not going to do just any old thing for money. She's already decided where her standards and her boundaries are going to be, right? So she's economically free. You can offer her any amount of money to do unethical things, but she's not going to do it because she's detached herself from the drug of money. So people have to understand money operates in your brain just like a drug. And a lot of these rappers are in the worst position ever because you are addicted to the money, but you don't even know how to make your own money. You can't make money without the record label. And then the money you get, you blown it on stupid stuff. You blown it on chains and Gucci and all this other stuff. When really you need to be planting those seeds so you can be safe. Absolutely. And real quick, Little Nas X, you and him were going back and forth with each other. I had some people unfollow me because I just don't like the guy anymore, because I am a religious person. Well, you can say spiritual, whatever, but I'm a true believer in God. He posts so many pictures of him being a dark angel. He had the devil shoes. I don't believe you came from that stance with him. It was more about his video where he had the black men bent over in the prison outfits. So my question is like, there's always been gay people. We always had drag queen performers. We had RuPaul. We have RuPaul. He's not the first gay person to be an entertainer, but he states it like he's almost the first one, and he's doing something that's never been done before. I don't get it. It's so obvious to me he's a puppet. That's the biggest problem I have with him, is that it's so obvious to me that he's a puppet, and he just thinks he's just kid that's doing something that nobody ever done before. How can gay people, I guess, express themselves in entertainment and show their sexuality without it being too much? Because a lot of the criticism he was getting was, men bending over and pretending to be naked or having the camera show them blurred out. It was just too much. But yet Lil Nas X said that, well, this is what Cardi B does in her videos. This is what this person does. When women do it, it's okay. So to me, it just sounds like it's going to be a fine line, because if it's not, people wouldn't be saying you're homophobic if you didn't like this or that. I know I just said a lot, but what are your thoughts about the whole thing? Well, with Lil Nas X, there's three points on that. Number one, I think Lil Nas X is an embarrassment to gay people. One of the things that I think that it offends a lot of people in the LGBT community, people that I know, very close people in my own family who are in that community, they've actually come to me and said that they are not comfortable with the fact that everybody thinks that your sexual preference needs to be the first thing that you bring up and you talk about. When I talk to you, when I sat down to talk to you today, did I first start the conversation by saying, well, let me tell you what I want, what I like doing in the bedroom, right? You don't know nothing about what I do in the bedroom because I'm not going to bring that up. I want you to know a million other things about me, and we don't have to know who I'm sleeping with or why or what I'm doing. I mean, you know, we're assuming I sleep with my wife, but you never know. I could be sleeping with a puppy. You have no idea, right? We got a lot of freaky people in the world. People do all kinds of stuff they don't tell nobody about, and I don't think we have a right to judge that. So Lil Nas X is not an asset even to the LGBT community because he gives that impression to the world that when you're gay, it's always about the sex, that sexual discipline is not even possible for a person who's gay, which leads people to start making accusations like, well, if you're doing all that, then maybe you might be a child. I can't have you around my children or whatever, right? Which goes to the children. That's the other issue with Lil Nas X. There's certain things that I believe you should not be putting in the faces of kids at a certain age. You just shouldn't, right? So Lil Nas X gets started with kids. He gets started on TikTok. Children are following him. Next thing you know, he's in a prison twerking with a bunch of naked men. That is absolutely the molestation of the minds of children. And I just, again, to help people understand that analogy, I say, well, what if I was on TikTok and I was shaking my junk in front of a bunch of kids? Would y'all think that was okay? No, it's not okay. And what Lil Nas X does is real interesting too, is he turns to the lowest common denominator. He'll say, well, if Cardi B does it, you know, it's okay. But if I do that, no, what Cardi B's doing, it ain't okay either. Cardi B is rapping to little 7-year-old girls about, you know, how they can get extra money if they learn how to suck a man's penis. Right. Well, no, I don't want my daughters to hear that. You know, I know what the world is. I know what the real world is like, and I don't judge that. But why are you sexualizing a 7-year-old? And then, you know, pay attention now. You turn yourself into a victim because then when that 7-year-old gets about 11 or 12 and she's been listening to your lyrics, she's thinking she's ready for stuff she ain't ready for. You know, so when you get an R.Kelly, there's a lot of R.Kellys out here, thousands of them, riding through the middle school parking lot looking for girls. You know, your little 12-year-old daughter's getting in the car with this man because she thinks she's ready for an adult relationship because she wants, you know, because this man's gonna buy her a Gucci bag. And then when that happens, you turn around and say, look at what these black men are doing to our little girls, and they're harming the black women. No, you created that. You created that monster. You know, when R.Kelly was getting those little girls to get in the car with him, he didn't have to force them. He would just invite them. And somebody put it in their head that they were ready for that. Some little girls said, no, I'm not trying to do that. But there were some little girls who said, okay, yeah, girl, you see that car? Right? That's the real world we live in. So my argument would be, why are we trying to sexualize our kids and then we get uncomfortable with the fact that they become sexual? Stop that. You know, seriously, stop the Cardi B, stop that. You know, like you're so talented. You could be doing so many other great things with that talent. I think she's a good rapper. A lot of my friends disagree. No, I think Cardi's a good rapper. Why does it always have to start and end with your WAP? Like, I don't, you know, if I'm talking to you and I'm having a conversation with you, Kera, would it be, think about how weird that would be if all I did was talk about my junk. Right. And I'm like, well, let me tell you more about I would hang up. First of all. Right. It would be offensive. And it would be offensive, inappropriate. It would also be not just me disrespecting you, but I'm disrespecting myself. I'm literally taking a complex human being and reducing him down to a lower vibrational, one-dimensional character. I'm making myself into a walking cartoon. I'm not I'm not to be taken seriously at that point because people are like, oh, there's Boyce. All he talks about is his junk. Right. Well, the same thing is true when you talk about the over sexualization of women in the music industry. It's not just Cardi's fault. It's higher than that. Right. It's the puppet masters. Right. So they're promoting this stuff. And you have so many talented women who are very complex human beings who have so many great things about them that the world should know. But you got all the men just focusing on the WAP. So then when the men are like, yeah, but tell me about your WAP. Right. Well, you know, we created that atmosphere. So the same way that people want to talk about how you create rape culture, well, sometimes we create WAP culture. You know, we create the culture where we demean and diminish our women into almost nothing. And then we get mad because people see them as a reflection of whatever's being portrayed in the music. And I think that's very unfair to women because I really believe that there are some artists out here that are super talented who don't want to rap about their vagina. There you go. And they can't get any attention because people are putting this cheap shit out in front of everything. And I don't like it at all.
Man, you just said a mouthful right there. And everything you said, anything people say against Lil Nas X is you get hit with you're homophobic, you're homophobic, you're homophobic, I just think we're really getting into a dangerous road by just labeling everything as homophobic. Like, I don't know.
I think I encourage everybody to start ignoring that. Just ignore it. Like, stop it, because that's all that is it's a defense mechanism, and it is a shield that allows people to get away with any kind of debauchery that they want. And then when you call them on the BS, they step out, well, you're just being homophobic, you're just being whatever. No, I think people should just, because what they've done is they have taken that term homophobic and they've made it to the point where it means nothing anymore.
Right.
It's like, no, you're telling me that I'm supposed to agree with everything you do, or I'm homophobic. Well, you know what? Call me whatever you want, but I'm gonna call it for what it is.
Yeah, they trying to point it out as being a Black community issue. Like, a lot of Black people have problems with gay people, but from, me knowing Black gay men, I have to say, to me, I think more than just having a problem with the gay way of living. I don't even want to call it a lifestyle, but just people being gay. I think Black people kind of don't like the fact of seeing feminine Black gay men. I think that bothers Black people more than just knowing that a Black man is gay. It's something about seeing a Black man, put his hands on his hip and, walking like this and twerking. Yeah, Cardi B can do it, and you say we don't judge her, but it's because we're used to women doing that. And that's what women do. They dance, they shake their rump. I mean, that's comes from our culture, even though we're not doing it as a cultural dance anymore, but per se. But I think that's just my opinion. I think that it's mostly people just not liking to see Black men being feminized in media. Not to say if it was a big stout looking man that people still would want to see him kiss and whatnot another man, but I think, like I said, it's just something about seeing a man a Black man in a dress and wearing long hair and being dressed up as a woman that really triggers the Black community.
Well, that's because, in my view, again, people can be whatever they want to be. We know that human beings come in all shapes and sizes, right? There's, I believe that gay people have always existed and they always will. And I don't think we have to judge that per se in terms of saying it's not your right to be whatever you want to be. But you got to remember, there's a reason that because America has always had a vested interest in controlling Black people so they can exploit them. There's always been an interest in making sure that your men were weaker and more feminine than other men. It's not to say that you can't have some men that are going to be feminine, gay, small, little babies or whatever. But when you get to where you think that the majority of your men are supposed to be that way, then what you're creating is an unprotected community that is easily exploitable. And so what they do is they lower the shield, so to speak, on the Black community. That's why we're not able to have standards. We don't control what comes in and out of our community. Kids get molested all over the place, kids getting shot, terrible things happen in our families, all kinds of trauma, because you don't have you've lost a commitment to developing those masculine men, some of whom might be alpha males or otherwise, that would stand up and say no to that nonsense. And so while women are just amazing and worthy and capable and can do so many great things, women can't be men. And I hope that we can agree on that. Women are not men. And so, when you look at what happened, for example, in the war on drugs, all those strong men that would have protected the community, they went and they killed them or they put them in prison, or then some of them got hooked on dope and then they became less of a man. That was all a strategy. It's all by design. And so now what you have is an unprotected community because you're not building and developing the kinds of men who are going to come through and defend the community when necessary. If you go to some white neighborhoods, you go down south somewhere in a little country town and you try to bring some more crazy nonsense in that town, the men will run you out of town with shotguns. They'll say, no, you're not doing that. You're not doing that to my daughter. You're not doing that in my neighborhood. Right. That's what they do. That's what men do. Men are the protectors. And so not only did you lose a lot of your protectors, but you lost the respect for the protectors. You have a lot of women that don't have faith in the Black men, or they've been convinced that you don't need the men. And then next thing you know, their kids don't have the protection and the support of a father, and they have all the dysfunction that comes with that, all the terrible things that happen because the father doesn't come through for them. And I can speak on the other side of that because I can think of how many times my father with his toxic masculinity. I mean, shoot, my father, believe me, there's many things that my dad did where I could probably tell you the story. You'd be like, oh, mom should have kicked him out the house, right? But in the midst of all that toxic masculinity was a sturdiness and a structure and a protection that we had that made sure that certain things were not going to happen on his watch. My sister was not going to get molested without the molester ending up dead. I wasn't going to go out here and run the street and get caught up in any old thing. I wasn't going to go down the street and join a gang without my father coming to the gang house and pulling me out by my neck and saying, get your ass home right now. Right? That we weren't going to go hungry because my father was going to make sure that the food was on the table. There's certain things that you need, almost like a soldier. You know, like a good man is a little bit like a soldier. He just has a certain responsibility, and it's typically taught to him by other men. Like when I'm defending my household, I'm thinking about things my father taught me when I was a kid. Like you don't let things happen like that to your woman, or you make sure your kids are taken care of, right? So I think that we have to get back to that. So what I'm saying on that is that Black people have to really stop listening to everybody else for a little while and start listening to ourselves. We need to reshape our agenda, our priorities, our philosophies, our view without interference from anybody else. Because sometimes in order for us to move forward, we got to look back, and we got to look back at what our grandparents had, because even though they didn't have some of the opportunities we had, they had a sturdiness in their families and a sturdiness in their community that we need to learn how to emulate. And that's what I think is really going on right now.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Before I close, and I know this is a big question for you, but what advice you can give people who are just starting out with their dreams? Because so many times I hear people say, you know, it's stuff I want to do, but they don't ever get started because they feel like they don't have enough money. Just give us a quick thing about how we could get those type of people out and doing something and not waiting by till they get enough money.
Well, don't do that, because one thing that people don't know about money is that most of the wealth you have in your life is not financial. Most of the wealth you have is not money. Even if you're a rich person, most of the wealth you have is in a lot of other forms. Your network, the people that you network with and talk to and communicate with, that's worth a lot of money. And I'm not making up. I'm not trying to say something to make people feel good. It's really true that when you gather people together and they can cooperate and achieve a common goal, wealth comes out of that. That's how the richest countries are. London became the richest city in the West because they had a river, the Thames River, where people would gather and they would trade with each other. And that's why London became such a rich country, because they had trade, right? So when people come together, that's a form of wealth. So another thing, your labor, your mind, your ideas, everything else, that's all wealth. So you've got a lot of wealth in front of you. Everybody that's watching this right now is already a millionaire. You're already a millionaire. You just don't have the money yet. What you want, in my view, is to do the things that don't cost a lot of money right now, so that you can begin to learn how to extract the wealth that already exists within the space that you operate. So maybe that means getting online and just taking a little class, or watching some videos on understanding wealth and money and where it comes from. And then that way you can begin a process, maybe joining a group of other investors, or a group of people that want to start businesses together. And then what happens is you bring it together. It's like a potluck dinner. When we have a potluck at the house, somebody says, I'll bring the vegetables, I'll bring the meat, I'll bring the bread, I'll bring the Kool-Aid, right? Next thing you know, you got a good meal. Well, the same thing is true with getting together with your family and your friends to create an economic meal. So maybe you and I get together and we get together with 5 friends. Maybe I don't have any money, but I got some free time. Well, that's worth something, right? And maybe you have a little bit of money, but you ain't got no time. You going to work every day, but you say, okay, well, I got $3,000 I saved up. I can put it to the bits. Maybe somebody else doesn't have money or time, but they have a skill. They're like, oh, well, I know how to set up a daycare. And then somebody else says, oh, well, I don't have skill and I don't have any money, I don't have any time, but I got a network. I know a whole lot of women over at the church that need babysitters. Boom, we got a business. We making money, right? Like a potluck, right? So I encourage people to stop thinking that you're poor. You ain't poor. You might not have any money, right? But believe me, Black people make trillions of dollars for other people all the time. Every day.
Yes, we do. Yes.
People don't understand how many businesses would not be able to function without all the trillions in wealth that they are extracting from Black people, starting with your labor. Just your labor alone is worth trillions of dollars to these corporations. That don't even count the money that you're spending in these businesses that are being set up in your neighborhoods and all this other. And also, Black people have a lot of education, a lot of skill. We manage other people's stuff real well. That's why they love to hire us. Black women are the most educated group of people on the planet. So you've got wealth. You just have to figure out a way to bring that together so you can turn that wealth into money, and it has to be money that's controlled by you. So don't give up on yourself. Just start learning. You can do it.
Thank you so much for that. And demasculation of Black men, I just got a note that I was supposed to call it that when we were talking about Black men being feminine in media. Dr. Boyce, thank you so much. In closing, I just want you to tell us a little bit about your book club and anything that you got going on that we can be interested in coming up.
Yes. Well, a couple things. One, we do a book club every week where I'm a big fan of Dr. Claude Anderson. So to help people out, I decided every Wednesday night at 8:30, we would actually read his books and go through them and break them down. And the book we're reading now is called Black Labor, White Wealth, which gives all the stuff that we never learned in school about how America was built and why America operates the way that it does, so we can figure out on a strategy. And so if anybody wants to join the book club, it's totally free. They can go to blackkeystogreatness.com, blackkeystogreatness.com. And also in the fall, in addition to Black Keys to Greatness, we're going to actually have a convention called the All Black National Convention. That's at the end of October. And it's going to be in Orlando, and it's going to be really cool. 4 days of complete unapologetic Blackness. We're going to have all kinds of panels on everything from politics to relationships and everything else. We're going to have breakout sessions on things like crypto and investing in the stock market and how to buy a Black-owned hotel and real estate and everything else. And also, we're going to try something different this year. We're going to actually do speed dating, because we found that a lot of the people that are conscious and intelligent Black people, they're looking for other people like themselves to match up with. And so since my wife is a relationship therapist, she said, why don't we do speed dating? And so we're doing speed dating for singles, but we're also doing a type of business type speed dating where it's not about a romantic hookup, it's about a business hookup. So you can find, in case you're not looking for that type of hookup, you can find the other kind of hookup that'll help you make some money. So we're trying to integrate a lot of things that will make us happy and proud and feel good. It's going to be in Orlando at the end of October. And so if people go to blackkeystogreatness.com and just join the book club, I'll email them first when the tickets go on sale. They'll be on sale in about a week and a half.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I may want to get tapped into that.
Yes, you got to come. Mark it on your calendar right now. It's the end of October, and I'll give you another exclusive interview, exclusive access to Never Level TV. Is that Never Level TV? I will give you exclusive access to whatever you want, because I met the brother who helped found the network, and I was super impressed with him, and we have a lot in common, and I think good people should work together. So I have a lot of respect for all of you over there, for sure.
So can I bring my camera?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Don't play with me, Dr. Boyce.
Bring your camera, bring your mic, bring your kids, bring your man, bring anybody that you want to bring, and I will support 100%. VIP treatment for sure.
Okay, I got your quote on this video now. So
yes.
Look,
I'm a man of my word. I stand by it.
Now. All right, so stay in touch, and I got your information. Add me on Instagram at Kera Dangerous. Make my dream come true.
I will. I'm gonna follow you right now. Right when we get done, I will follow you on Instagram.
And y'all follow me at Kera Dangerous as well if you haven't, and follow me on YouTube and keep following Dr. Boyce. This has been a pleasure, man. I don't have to stalk you on your page anymore because I know you now. Look at that.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. It's great to meet you, and I appreciate your support as well. And I just really think we all in this together. And I really feel good about everything that we're doing, all of us are doing right now, because I feel like they're going to remember this 100 years from today. I really think that we are changing the community for the better, and all this hard work we're doing, all this sacrifice, the things that seem a little bit difficult at times, it's going to have a payoff. You know, we are determined, we are destined to win, because you can't do what we're all doing and think like we're all thinking and end up as a loser. So I encourage everybody out there, keep doing the right thing. It's going to work out. And if it don't work out for you exactly the way you want, it's going to work out for your kids. So keep planting those seeds.
Yes. And Dr. Boyce, people, y'all send me the information. I'm jumping on this, baby.
Okay. Consider it done. Yes, ma'am.
And I love your smile, by the way. I always got to compliment the guests before we get out of here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It took some work, and they made so much fun of me. Woo! Because it took 6 months to go through all the surgery and everything. And but growing up, I didn't go to the dentist enough, and there's a consequence for that. And believe me, they made so much fun of me for a long time. But you know, it's like you got to go through hell to get to your heaven. But now I'm in heaven. I'm real happy with it. So thank you very much.
Well, you know what? God bless you and your new union and your kids and yourself and your book club and everything you got going. And I'm gonna see you in October. So
Yes, ma'am.
we out of here, guys. See y'all next week. No, see you Sunday. I got Tyler Abercrombie from the hit Showtime show, The Shy. We out of here. Peace.
Peace.